baby was born into the Shakya clan. His father, King Suddhodana, named him Siddhartha. A holy man visited to see the baby. He predicted that the boy would either become a great king or a great spiritual leader. His father was adamant that he would follow in his footsteps, so he determined that Siddhartha would not know anything of the hardships of life, suffering, old age, sickness, death, or anything that might set him on a spiritual path. So, as Siddhartha was growing up, he was not allowed to leave the grounds of the palace and pampered with luxury and pleasure. But as he grew older, he became curious about what was beyond the palace. Defying his father, he left the palace to see what lay beyond. He came across 3 sights: old age, sickness, and death. When questioning his charioteer as to these strange sights, he was shocked to find that these applied to him too. He too would grow old, he too would get sick, and he too would one day die. Mara, Lord of Death, defeats everyone in the end. Finding out about the realities of the human condition sent Siddhartha into a crisis. He became withdrawn, and the pleasures of the palace seemed hollow to him. What was the point of it all if one day it would all be taken away from us? But everybody seemed oblivious to it. To Siddhartha, their worldly activities seemed little more than a dance of death. Then, one day he saw a 4th sight, a holy man, one who had renounced the worldly life, who seemed to carry himself with an air of peace. He decided that he too would leave home and search for an answer to the riddle of existence.
Suppose I, being subject to birth, seek the unborn, being subject to sorrow, seek the sorrowless, being subject to death, seek the deathless.
In the dark of the night, he said a silent farewell to his wife and son, and left the palace. He cut off his hair, exchanged his princely robes for those of a beggar, and set off alone on his adventure. Mara, Lord of Death, decided he would keep a close eye on this upstart. The life of a homeless wanderer, living off scraps of leftover food, was not easy to get used to.
The forests, as it were, plunder the mind of a monk who has not attained concentration.
In his day, there was a community of wanderers who, like him, had gone forth to a homeless life to seek answers. He sought out the best teachers of his day, such as Alara Kalama, who taught him sophisticated meditation techniques. An incredibly determined and able student, Siddhartha learnt to enter refined and exalted pleasurable states of consciousness. He soon surpassed his teacher, who offered him joint leadership of his sect. But Siddhartha felt no closer to solving the problems of old age, sickness, and death.
I thought, this teaching does not lead to peace, to nirvana. I left to pursue my search.
Siddhartha then embarked on a series of grueling ascetic practices. Maybe, by denying the body pleasure, he could gain power over his mind. He took very little food. He experimented with stopping his breathing for long periods. He became famous for the extent of his austerities, and a band of 5 ascetics started following him. So severe and extreme was his asceticism that Siddhartha brought himself to the brink of death. He realized if he carried on like this, he would die before achieving his goal. Then a memory came to him from when he was a boy, sitting under a tree on a pleasant day, when he entered into a pleasurable state of concentration, a state free of sensual desires, but also one of exploration and happiness.
Why am I afraid of such pleasure? Might that be the way to enlightenment?
No sooner had he had the thought than he realized it was the way. He left his life of austerity and began eating moderately again. His 5 followers left him in disgust. but he had discovered the middle way between overindulging in sense pleasure and rigid austerity. After years of striving, Siddhartha sensed the time was near. He found a beautiful spot under a tree and entered into meditation.
With my concentrated mind purified, bright and malleable, I directed it towards the recollection of past lives.
A continual round of sorrows and joys, loss and gain, different times and places, but always ending in the same way: death. He saw that death was dependent on birth, which in turn was dependent on craving. The cessation of craving would lead to no more births and no more death. Freedom. Mara was worried. He saw that Siddhartha was on the brink of enlightenment, on the brink of defeating him. He sent his armies to attack Siddhartha, but the arrows and weapons transformed into flowers as they entered into his presence. He sent his beautiful daughters to seduce Siddhartha, but he would not be tempted by sensual pleasures. Finally Mara cried,
"Who are you, a mortal, to sit on the throne of enlightenment? Who will speak for you?"
Siddhartha touched the ground with his hand, and the earth goddess, Startavara, arose.
I have witnessed Siddhartha perfecting kindness, patience and generosity over many lifetimes. He is worthy to sit on the throne of the Buddhas.
Mara was defeated. Siddhartha had gained enlightenment. He had conquered craving, birth and death. What was left was infinite light, infinite wisdom and infinite kindness. As the sun arose that morning, a new being, a Buddha, had come into the world.
The spiritual life has been lived. Done is what needed to be done. The doors to the deathless are open.